Hi everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel called Karoline's Knits. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about what I have been working on and what I'm planning to work on, etc, etc. If you're new here, my name is Karoline and I live in Scotland with my partner Ben. We just moved to a new house recently, so today we're in a new location. Welcome to my bedroom, which is a bit strange, I guess. I kind of hope none of the neighbours look over and think, why is she talking to a camera in her bedroom? But I will stay fully clothed, so I'm sure it will be fine. I have been knitting since May 2020, so we're past the 1 year mark now. And my lockdown hobby is now my full-time hobby, essentially. I absolutely love it. It's funny with planning a podcast, and I always don't think it's going to be that long, and then the last one was probably one of my longest podcasts. But it's always finding that balance between having enough to show while, you know, not waiting too long in between. So it's been about 2 weeks, which I find is usually pretty good. So let's get into it. First of all, I should talk about what I'm wearing. For full disclosure, I received the yarn for this as it is a testknit. This is the Augustins number 17 by the Danish designer Augustins, which I test knitted in size E, which is roughly a 2XL. You can sort of get a feel for the fit. It's probably a tiny bit bigger on me. It might have grown slightly in the wash. The gauge fit before wash and I was like, oh, but I have recently just washed it, so it might have grown a little bit. This was really fun and quick to knit. You might have seen in the last episode I showed the yarn, which is Knitting for Olive's double soft merino, held together with Knitting for Olive's soft silk mohair. I used the colour rose for the double soft and the colour rose clay for the soft silk mohair. I will update my Ravelry entry or like project on this. My Ravelry is always linked down below with the exact amounts, but it wasn't very much. I think in total I used about 300 and something grams of double soft and I don't know, 100 grams of soft silk mohair, maybe less. So it is not that expensive a knit to make, and I knit it all. When I test knit, I always knit it according to measurements in the pattern so that the designer get a full understanding of if, like, you know, the lengths are right as well. So I usually don't edit that. The construction of this is really interesting. So you cast on up here for the neckline, where you have sort of the saddle shoulder style up here. Then you essentially work first shoulder or front increases, front and back increases across here, and then you actually work sleeve increases. So it kind of looks like you've just picked up stitches very well, but this is actually all increases. And then you split for sleeves, let them wait while you finish the rest of the body. At the end of the body, you have a double folded cuff, which you also have here underneath the sleeves, which are almost ruffle like. And then you knit the sleeves, which are very, very big. Finish off again with this folded hem, which you then put in elastic to kind of give this kind of like gathered big poofy sleeve look. And then up here, once you've finished all of this, you knit on an I-cord up here on the neckline to sort of tighten it all together. I would say the pattern would be brilliant for an advanced beginner. So not like the first time you ever knit a big piece in the round, but if you feel like you are familiar with doing increases in the round and familiar with, you know, working the body and the sleeves in that kind of way, I think you could easily do this pattern. There's no short row shaping. There's none really difficult things in this. So yeah, perfect for an advanced beginner. From start to finish, this took me just over a week because the gauge is actually, I think it's 10 stitches and maybe 10 rows as well to 10 centimeters. So it's quite a, I guess, a loose gauge, especially considering that you just have the double soft merino like single strand. I actually thought the double soft would have been held double. The thing about the yarn choice is that it does allow for an airiness. It's not a heavy garment, If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may know that I, for example, don't knit all that much like very chunky yarn, just because I find it's a bit uncomfortable to wear. It's too heavy, but this is very, very light and airy. It's a tiny bit see-through, which might come through, but not massively. I have been wearing it when the weather has been quite nice, which does apparently happen in Scotland. I am mahusively sunburnt, especially on my legs. And my partner's mum was like, aren't you like roasting in like this fluffy sweater? But it's quite good because obviously your arms are out, so you do have sort of that ventilation that sort of coming through. But also the arm, this is where my actual armpit is, so you get a lot of ease or sort of looseness in the armpits. And I actually think for wearing this type of garment in summer-ish weather, that's quite important. And again, a bit over a week for me is very, very fast for a garment my size. I would also say I could have done it much faster. So in that week, we had visitors on the weekends, so you know, I was entertaining and cleaning and all of these things. And I've also been painting events, which I have spent 2 full weekend days on. So that was obviously time I could also have been spent knitting. So just to say, it's also good because if you are an advanced beginner and you want something to move quite quick, this is a very good project. I think when I very first started knitting and my speed and my ability to read patterns weren't as good, I could probably still have done this in about 2.5 weeks. So yeah, all in all, a really, really pleasant experience, pleasant to knit, pleasant to wear. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. It is, as usual, the ease on this is maybe slightly more now than I would have picked. But then I'm also starting to learn that in general I quite like sort of negative ease for most things, because I'm so much wider up here on my bust compared to just below it, and sometimes I think it can make me look slightly wider, but then you get a really comfortable sort of fit. You're probably not as straight anymore. Just double checking on my watch, my mum just phoned, so we had a quick chat, gave her a tour of the house, but let's get back to it. So I think I said the main things I really wanted to say about this. It was fun and quick. Pattern was well written, easy to follow. I think the fit has actually turned out quite good because it's quite tight up here with the I-cord, and I actually think that gives a really good fit. You don't get sometimes with a lack of short rows, it's like you're getting strangled because it's keeps falling like down in the back, and I don't really get that with this. Wow. I should probably I always like to talk about sort of itchiness as well, and this has no itch at all, none, and never really has. Obviously does silk my hair in it, and it's against my bare chest and my neck, and it's fine. Which it really surprised me, but I think with some of these sort of blow yarns, they can take some of the itchiness away from the mohair really. So yeah, feeling really happy about that. Obviously, as usual, knitting for Olive is just lovely yarn. And I'm so grateful to have been sponsored by them, because the yarn is just so nice. Anything else? So yeah, so far quite good on itch. I think in the last episode I'd spoken about how double soft felt almost a bit chalky. Does not feel like that knitted up at all. It's very, very nice knitted up, very soft. No, a tiny bit of fluff, just looking at my leggings, but nothing major, so I'm quite happy about that as well. So now that we have covered what I am wearing today and my only finished object, I'm going to show you my whips. I don't feel like that much has happened because obviously the main knitting focus since our last film has been this. So the first one is obviously my office sweater, which you have now seen a casters on early April, and I'm quite close now. So I am just reaching the point where I'm starting to judge when the body is being ready, like when I'm ready to cast off the body. I think I'm planning on knitting, well, you can kind of see the length here, probably not too far from the body ribbing. I weaved in all the ends, so yeah, I think it's not far now. and really excited to get this finished because it's such a good neutral piece, and I could certainly use more of that in my wardrobe. So hopefully the next time I see you this will be done. The office sweater is a test knit that I'm doing for Knit Flitter, and hopefully I will be doing another test knit for Knit Flitter here over the summer, so I'm really excited for that. The yarn for my test knit has arrived in Denmark, so it needs to get sent over to me, which is why I don't have it here to show you. But I'm really excited to test knit her next design, which I think I spoke about in the last episode. It's called a Day Off sweater. So that's obviously one of my whips. However, the one I've actually enjoyed knitting on the most is my fern sweater. So I finished a bit more on the body. So it's now probably just a bit past my boobs really. And then I started sleeve number 1. Still really unsure because I didn't gauge swatch for this. I have no idea how it's going to go yarn amount wise, and this is why I always like to gauge swatch at first. But yeah, this feels so soft, and I think I've been so keen to knit on it because again, if you watch some of my previous episodes, I test knitted a pattern for Knitting for Olive called the Darling Wrap, which was a massive project, and I've spoken about that at length. But that is knitted in the same combo of yarn as this is, which is Knitting for Olive's Merino and Knitting for Olive's Soft Silk Mohair. And I was very nervous that I wasn't going to be able to wear it against naked skin, but I wore it on Wednesday and it was very hot on Wednesday, and I'm sure, like, you know, I'm not the only one who gets more sensitive if I'm like sweaty. If you start to overheat, it's like, you know, it just gets so prickly. I was absolutely fine in it, and it's almost like it's softened up and become more comfortable to wear with use. So now I'm even more excited for this to be ready, because this might actually be a combo of yarn that I can wear next to skin. Holding it like this feels fine. Yeah, all feels fine, so I'm really excited. I actually bought, well, my granny bought me this yarn for Christmas before I did the test knit for Knitting for Olive, and it's maybe not the most summer appropriate colour, but this is probably my favourite colour, this kind of like dark wine red. This is called Claret in both the Merino and Soft Silk Mohair, and it's just stunning, I think. So really excited to finish this, and this is obviously a big lace piece. I would say the construction of this, I would say, is an intermediate knitter appropriate, just because you do have short rows, and I think the pattern, like, I find some of Knitting for Olive's patterns can be a bit hard to read, and you kind of have to know how to read their patterns. I find them a bit different from other pattern designers that I've knit from. But yeah, I think it's turning out really lovely, and it looks to me like the sleeves are going to turn out really big and balloony really. Of course, knitting, I always like the 40cm circular needles from Pony, because they have this nice bend, so they're really like comfortable to hold, and they're metal. So that's really my two main whips. I hope to get most of the office sweater done probably in the next week or so, and then I'm going to focus my efforts on this, which has really been just, as Penrose Knits would say, tickling my knitting pickle. Is that right, Laura? And yeah, I'm just yeah, so excited to wear it. It's just, the more I knit on it, the more stunning it becomes to me. And then that's kind of all of the sort of usual parts of the podcast that takes me a really long time. From my last video, I had loads of feedback, and I really can't stress enough that I love when you feedback and you leave comments, and I really take in what you say. Also constructive criticism, if you think my editing is bad, if I leave in bits you think I should leave out, if there's something I spend too much time talking about, etc., please do let me know. But there was, I'd mentioned if people would be interested in seeing my yarn stash, but so currently the yarn stash, that room hasn't the room it's currently in hasn't changed, and it is a complete mess because we essentially have no furniture in the room, so everything is just stored in organized piles. So currently it's a bit hard to show the stash because it's a bit hard to get to, if I'm honest. So I thought for today I have some acquisitions, but I also thought I would talk about projects on my horizon because I actually have felt a little bit lost recently. I think I've just felt a tiny bit and like a hint of knitting stress coming in because I'm so keen to get my projects finished and moving on, and I kind of feel like I've been a bit of a standstill, which is obviously silly because I'm sitting in a whole sweater that I knit in over a week, but I just kind of feel like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't think I'm really that into having things on the needles for a very long time. I am certainly not a monogamous knitter. I do quite like having projects that do different things, or that requires different levels of attention, different thickness, different needle sizes, all of that, but preferably not too many. And I still like to get things finished. I don't think I'm a big, having several whips just lying in a corner for a year or more at a time. And obviously the office sweater and the fern sweater have been on my needles since probably about April, if not earlier. And for me, that's a very long time for having ongoing projects. And again, sometimes with the podcast and social media, you kind of just want things to move. You kind of want to actually finish things so you have things to show. And I've probably just felt a tiny bit of that pressure that I've obviously just put on myself. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to slow down and enjoy it. I also just think it's with the heat coming and things opening and stuff, there's a lot of emotions in me just now, more than ever maybe. And I think it's also, I think sometimes I kind of wish I was just a monogamous knitter because I kind of feel like I want the office sweater to be done, but also what I really want to knit on is the fern sweater. So I just need to push through, get the office sweater done, and then I think I'm ready to enjoy and look forward to some new projects. And my knit list never gets any shorter, and I think I'm still really at a point where I've bought some new yarn, and I will speak about them in a minute, but I think for the most part I'm not planning to add all that much to my stash because recently when I've been thinking about adding more projects, I'm like, well, I kind of have these projects that fulfill the same goal in my stash or kind of the same need in my wardrobe. One thing though I have discovered is that I'm starting to think more about cardigans, especially. I feel like I might need to knit a cardigan here over summer because I've actually been wearing that loads in the home office. I love just throwing on a cardigan. I sometimes share that on my knitting Instagram, what I'm wearing, to kind of show what things get to use in my wardrobe. So yeah, are you a monogamous knitter? Do you like having several projects on the go? Are you bad for starting a project and not finishing it until several months later? I don't know if it's just me who likes to be quite focused in my knitting. And I actually quite enjoyed the pressure of this. I kind of enjoyed that for that week, this was all my focus. I didn't knit on anything else. So maybe I need to take some lessons from that to sit back and kind of enjoy a project instead of trying to do a million things. So speaking of doing a million things, I have a recent order from my favourite yarn shop, from the lovely Simona. It's knit.co.uk. You can obviously see it's spelled, it has an extra T in it. I have ordered for 2 summer projects. So as I've said, I'm not planning to add more to my stash. And I've maybe also kind of decided that maybe summer knits weren't really for me, but then I changed my mind. I've just been seeing so many lovely summer projects, and I think those garments are actually some I would use quite a lot. So I decided just to buy for 2 projects instead of buying for like 10 projects, which I can sometimes be bad for. I'm kind of like, oh, I want to knit this, and then suddenly I have much more than I could ever knit. So even if these obviously don't get done this summer, it's not a big deal. They might be slightly more portable because summer yarns are often lighter, you don't have the long sleeves, etc. So I bought, I can't remember, probably about 4 skeins of Sandnes Garn Line or Turn Line. I would call it Line. I don't actually know if that's true. If you're Scandinavian, what would you say, Line? Sandnes Garn is one of the newer brands that she's stocking. You might have seen that I showed Pia Gund in one of my previous episodes, which is like this like more rough Norwegian wool. Turn Line is a summer quality that is 53% cotton, 33% viscose and 14% linen. And it is, and 50 grams of this equals approximately 220 meter. And this is in the color 1015. I think it's called Wheat, and it's beautifully like shiny. Actually, it's lovely. Really like it. Current plans for Turn Line is to probably become my favorite things knitwear camisole, probably number 4. If you've knit any of the camisole, let me know which one you think would be good, just because I think I would get loads of views out of that, but obviously knitting one strand of this is going to take forever. But I also thought maybe it'd be quite good because it would stay quite small for a long time. The other summer yarn that I bought is a Drops Bell, which is considerably more affordable. I think Turn Line is about £4 a ball, and a Drops Bell is £180 a ball. And I'm definitely tempted to go back because there's some lovely colours in Drops Bell. So there is in Turn Line, but yeah, I was really impressed by Drops Bell actually. And at least for me, 180 is quite cheap for a ball of yarn. It has the exact same composition as Turn Line, it just runs shorter, so it's a bit thicker. 50 grams runs 120 meters, and for gauge it's 21 stitches to 28 rows. I think basically I bought this because Sandnes makes Turn Line, turn means thin, but they also make Line, which is a thicker quality, and this should match. I've seen on Ravelry that people have used Drops Bell instead of Line, so I'm going to give that a go. And it's not as shiny as Turn Line is, despite them having the same composition. I don't know if you can tell, but Line like almost has a silk shine to it, which Bell doesn't. But I think the Bell is still lovely. This colour is called Silver, or it's colour 06, and ordering it looked like a grey, but in real life it has almost like a slight green hint to it. I wonder if I take this off, which is a grey. I don't know if you can tell how green that looks. It looks like a very light pastel green, and I actually really like it. So this is probably destined to be one of Lena Holm Samso's or Lynette's summer knits. You might have seen in my previous episode that this year from Lena I've knitted her Chunky Dahlia and her peacock sweater. That was in my last video, the peacock sweater, and I just really like the lace work, and I love the t-shirt version. So she has a peacock tee, so it has that same peacock lace at the top, and then she has a Summer Ella, which is like the Chunky Dahlia leaves, but just they're just smaller and there's more of them on the yoke. That's my current thoughts, but again, subject to change. And I might gauge swatch those soon, just because obviously you want to get wear out of them while it's still summer. As I can't really give you a tour of my yarn stash, I thought I would start to add in some projects coming up, and today I've brought through 3 project worths of yarn that I'm thinking I should knit up soon that you probably haven't seen before. So the first project, I've taken them through in their IKEA bags. The first project is a cardigan number 6 from My Favourite Things Knitwear. It's an all over lace cardigan. I think it's knitted on recommended needle size 6mm, so it's a bit for lace it should move slightly quicker, and it's knitted in 3 strands of mohair. This is, to this date, besides the very first yarn that I bought from Aldi, this is the largest amount of sweater quantity yarn in my stash. I bought this after I had tried one the Isea silk mohair, and I was like, oh yeah, I love silk mohair, I can just buy any silk mohair. And then I kind of ordered this, and then I wasn't so sure, like I kind of realized maybe mohair wasn't for me. But again, holding it up to my face, this is fine. I don't know if anyone else has found this. I have in the past few months kind of just pushed through if things are a bit itchy, or if I can feel the yarn or the roughness, and I wonder if I'm becoming less sensitive. Is that a thing? Can you become less sensitive to wool? Because this certainly feels a lot nicer to me now than it maybe did when I first started knitting. So I have a lot of it, because this is the Drops Kit Silk, you can see it there, in the colour Malva, which is also colour 31. Malva is, as you can tell, very dark, like plummy colour. And originally I bought this for a Snorkel Rib sweater from Knitting for Olive. Snorkel Rib is like a cable sweater, essentially. Just having some emails through, I better hurry up a little bit. So yeah, I had a 3-strand amount or quantity of the Drops Kid Silk, and I've never knitted it, and I think I kind of reached a point where I think that a cardigan would be more useful for me, especially in this colour. I could imagine this colour with just, you know, mum jeans and a black t-shirt, which is literally my uniform, would actually be really lovely, and I would get a lot more use out of it. This colour could also be lovely over dresses, like flowery dresses that match, etc. And I think the Snorkel Rib sweater, I think I've just decided that I want to knit that in something else. And I've kind of said to myself that maybe if I don't buy lots of yarn this year and my stash significantly decreases, that maybe around Christmas time I could look to buy exactly the type of yarn that I want for that project. Being in 3 strands of mohair, obviously if you were to buy Iseas, it's easily £150 if not more, and Drops Kid Silk is about £40 or so, which is just such a massive difference in price that at the time I just couldn't justify buying that amount. But maybe as I now have a much more of a stash, I feel like I have a lot less of a need to hoard yarn just for the sake of it, but maybe spend more on exactly what I want. I've also obviously become much better at yarn substitution, and I do think it's one of those that I would quite like to replace with maybe 1 strand with like a merino or something similar, just to have a bit more hold and a bit more structure and it not being so fluffy, or maybe knit it in Cumulus or Camerose Monstrole, or I don't know, but some kind of quality. And I kind of like the idea that I could plan for it. That still means that this was added to my stash in July last year, and I think when you start to hit that 1-year mark of something being in your stash, I think it's time for me to knit it. So I bought some beautiful buttons that I have downstairs in a little local shop that I went to, so I'm quite excited to knit that up, and that might be sort of a bigger lace project coming up. I've been excited to knit it for a while. So it's one project from my stash, another project from my stash. Look at this colour. This is also a silk mohair, and maybe for the sake of it, let's hold these together. They feel quite similar to me, and the sheen is very similar. Obviously one is a lot brighter than the other. This is a yarn that I bought when I was in Denmark in August last year. It's from a shop that originated in my hometown Odense, called Tendegrøn, which means Auntie Green, and it's their silk mohair, and it I don't know what the colour is, I don't know if it says colour 41. It is the brightest neon pink ever, and at the time I'd actually picked up too little. I'm looking at it now, oh my god, it's stunning. At the time I'd actually bought too little. I'd misread the amount in the pattern that I was wanting to knit, so I bought too little. I was wanting to knit the sweater number 1 from My Favourite Things Knitwear, which is knit in 2 strands of silk mohair on needle size 6. I reckon that would be quite a quick project for me, which is why I'm kind of tempted to start it quite soon, because I went to Denmark last year in August, and so the original part of the yarn at least has been in my stash for also close to a year now. And yeah, I just think that, can you imagine that? Sell with like just again pair of jeans kind of thing. That's really becoming my things, you know, like a nice pair of jeans. The sweater number 1 has quarter length sleeves, but I should have enough to extend them to full length, so that's probably what I would do. So yeah, this is another thing in my stash. Another project coming up quite soon. This is yarn you have seen before. This I bought, when did I buy this? I feel like I bought this after I started a podcast, probably back in November time. It is both from Knit, of course. This was after I found it. Those two, the first two weren't. So the Drops Kit Silk I bought from Linde Hobby, which is a Danish shop. And the Tendercon I obviously bought in Denmark, and then my granny kindly shipped the extra yarn to me. I bought this probably back in November. This is the VIP, Lanagato VIP, which has cashmere in it. And it's like the Maxi VIP, which I've knitted 3 projects in so far and really, really like. I knitted 3. I think I've only knitted 2 in Maxi, but I have enough yarn for a third one, and I really, really like it. And then this is the Telia, which is Phil Kalana's Silk Mohair in Latte, which is one of their most popular colours. It's just like a cool tone brown. I was contacted by a designer called Along avec Anna, that sounds right. And her and the people who help her make patterns are currently hosting a knit along for their patterns. And she asked if I would be interested in being gifted one of their patterns and participating in the KAL or the knit along. And I kind of have rudely said, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm moving, I'll get back to you once things have calmed down. And then she wrote to me this week to follow up and ask if I was still interested. So she makes some really stunning, very feminine patterns, and I was really in doubt what kind of pattern I wanted, and I did wonder if I wanted to knit a cardigan, but I just think I'm going to stick to cardigans on slightly chunkier needles. I just don't think that a size 4.5mm needles in, you know, stockinette stitch knitted flat is for me. So I got back to her yesterday to say I'd love to knit her silver leaf jumper. So the silver leaf is like a pattern with lace sleeves, and then it has just an eye-cord like rounded neck, and the lace sleeves were just so beautiful, and I think it could be quite a versatile piece in my wardrobe. And I think it needs very neutral yarn to not be completely erased, I guess. You know, if I knit this in, you know, something like with those kind of lacy sleeves in a bright multicolored hand-dyed yarn, I think it wouldn't really shine. So I'm planning to knit it up in this, which again has been in my stash for quite a few months now, and I'm kind of ready for that to become something. Final yarn in my stash. Well, not final yarn in my stash. The final yarn I wanted to show you today, this has been in my stash since August. I ordered this with some other yarns, which I think has been knitted up. If I'm honest, I feel like I might have ordered maybe I ordered the VIP at that time, but I certainly ordered some Maxi VIP, both of which I've knitted up since. But this was actually my first order from Knit all the way back in August last year when I found her. And again, it was at a time where I didn't know very much about yarn substitutions, how to pick different yarns. And I've spoken about before, when I found her shop, I was really relieved because she actually sold yarn that was recommended in patterns. And now I take it for granted how much better I've become at saying, oh, well, this yarn could be substituted with this list of 15 other yarns that I can think of. But at the time, I just wasn't as good at that, and I found it really confusing. And so one yarn that especially Petite Knit often recommends is Phil Kalana Ovetta and Phil Kalana Telia. So Tilia, as I said, as I showed with the latte, it's a silk mohair. This is in the colour Red Squirrel, order number 352, and it's this lovely squirrel red. And then this I think is called 352, yeah, 352 as well. So this is also Red Squirrel in Arvetta, which is their sock base. I would probably no longer buy this because it's 20% nylon and 80% new wool. This is, well, actually quite fittingly, the little sheet there wears socks. Like Arvetta is really a very commonly used sock yarn. Because of the nylon, it wears really well. I see Penrose knit in it all the time. I've never knit a pair of socks ever. Probably should at some point. But anyway, I bought a sweater quantity of that. For the life of me, yes, that's right. I bought it for a balloon sweater, and I don't think it's going to become a balloon sweater. My current thinking is a sweater number 15 from My Favourite Things Knitwear. I think that's what it's called. It's a design that she recently released that has cables all over, and I just really liked it. I'm really into cables at the moment, absolutely obsessed with cables and lace, etc. I really have found that this year, so that's what I think this is going to become. Probably more towards the tail end of summer going into fall, because as you can tell, I have plenty of projects for the rest of summer, but I thought I'd show you this because I think I would wear it loads. I still don't really know if that colour suits my hair. But yeah. So that's a little, I guess, insight to things I have planned for the future. Most of the other yarns in my stash I actually think you will have seen, because I have, yeah, the rest have probably been added since I started filming the podcast, but these are sort of things that I dream of to knit. My yarn I might have a project in mind for certain, you know, stash or like certain combination of yarns, and then it can change. I am not one to like tie myself down to a particular type, like to a particular project until I'm ready to cast on. So the Red Squirrel Arvetta Tilia combo is a good example. That I bought it for the balloon sweater, but I don't know what I'm going to knit the balloon sweater, and it's still kind of on my list. It's a pattern by Petite Knit, if you didn't know. It was one of the first patterns I was desperate to knit, and then it was like difficulty level 5 out of 5, and I was like, well, I'll never manage this. And now I probably could. And yeah, it's that kind of, you know, interesting how things change. So yeah, that was a little insight. I will stop blabbering because I really need to get back to my desk. But I thought I'd film today. I felt a bit out of kilter in this past week, so if I've maybe not seemed like my usual self, it's just because life has been a lot, you guys. It turns out moving is a lot of work, and it's been feeling a tiny bit relentless in that sense, but I have probably not been doing as well for a long time. I think now that I have moved, I've kind of realised how poorly I was doing for a little while at the start of the year. I think lockdown really got to me. And I also kind of, I'm sorry, we have a neighbour with a dog that sometimes bark in the garden. And it's really not until now when things are settling down that I'm really discovering how knitting at a time maybe took over a little bit, because I needed something to focus on when life felt a bit difficult. And now that my life is settling, knitting is taking a bit more of a back step in my life, and I guess I should see that as a positive. But then I saw the size of my stash and I was like, I should definitely knit fast. I definitely need a knitting machine. Right, clearly the dog is like, you need to shut up, Karoline, and go do something else. I'm tired of your voice. But as usual, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I truly mean that. It is unbelievable to me that so many people are interested in what I make, and it's so incredible to get comments and for you to reach out. It, yeah, really truly touches my heart. As usual, everything is linked down below, and yeah, hopefully see you again in about 2 weeks when the office sweater will definitely be done. All right, see you later. Bye.